It's the Growler with PD&Jay. Here to analyze for you today. From Growler Bad to Jay's got stats. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Growler Podcast.
All right, welcome into the latest edition of PD&J on the Growler. Paul Dehner Jr. of The Athletic, Jay Morrison of Pro Football Network here taking you inside the Bengals post-free agency, Jay. We've got a lot to get to. Big show. Y'all are going to love this one.
Is it post yet? Are they done?
No, that's true. That's true. We're wrapping up. We're in
Yes.
there's the one gift left under the tree that never really looked good the whole time. And you're like, all right, I know. It's just some more, it's just some candy. It's some Skittles. I know. It's not not the big thing. It's not the bike. All right. You already got that. But yes, they're wrapping up and then you got to throw away some of the trash. We're at that point in the program.
Yeah.
But you, listener, if you're watching us on YouTube, I hope you watch us on YouTube as well as listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. Are going to really enjoy this one. Bengals offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher is our guest here. And if you're watching on YouTube, it's a separate file. You can just go watch. We go through some tape with him on Gesicki, on Moss, talk about the approach through free agency, Trent Brown, the fact that there are two massive tackles now on the bookends and what that does. Awesome stuff with Dan Pitcher. Again, the YouTube video of us going through the tape with him is really valuable, but still definitely absolutely works for you here as you listen audio only on the podcast as we talk through all of those guys. So really excited to have that for you here today.
Yeah, Dan is no stranger to Bengals fans, but I don't know. He's not been out as in front and doing interviews where you guys hear it. He does interviews with us, but you don't necessarily see or hear from him a lot. And you will hear why he is a fast rising coach in this league. I mean, just incredible detail and just really dives in deep on these new guys and super, super smart guy.
Yeah, much thanks to Dan for joining us. We'll get to that here in a minute. We want to start by kind of getting you caught up with where we are. Of course, Jay and I have stories up on all the latest that's happened in free agency, from the defensive tackle shift to the signing of Trent Brown and what that means, and so much more. You can go see those on The Athletic, on Pro Football Network, and read up on everything. But the latest was Trent Brown signing. So the Bengals, shifted away. We talked about this on Monday, kind of shifted away from Mekhi Becton and T.R. Tart. And they put their eyes on Trent Brown and said, look, let's go get this guy. 1-year deal, who played for New England last 2 years, but, really played well for them. But, wasn't a full season. But when he played great. The next gen stat that's kind of been going around was how, he was out there on an island at left tackle as much as almost anyone in football and had the second best pressure rate allowed. That is a huge advantage for the Cincinnati Bengals in the way that they play, where you're going to spread them out more often. That's what Burrow wants. You're going to be leaving your tackles on an island more often and allow Burrow to quick process and beat them with everybody out in space. And if you can do that consistently, it's great. He brings versatility. He's coming in. He's playing right tackle. Everyone knows that. He's fine with that. Orlando Brown's playing left. But if something happens to Orlando Brown, Jay, what stood out to me? Trent, when we talked to him yesterday, took so much pride in doing both.
Yeah.
And doing both at a high level. You don't hear that often.
No, and he even said that, he knows he's playing right tackle this year, but he said, I'm still going to cross-train. I'm still going to be ready for both. And I'm sure the Bengals implored that to him as well, where that if something like that happened, he would be the first guy to go in at the left. But he's played left the last 2 years, played right before that, and he did. He took pride in the one-on-one being on an island thing, but he also spoke a lot about the importance and in the just how much pride he takes in being able to do both and how he will continue to work at both.
And now the Bengals have these massive humans I mean, it's comical. We were laughing because this was something that Robert Mays on the Athletic NFL Football Show joked about in their free agency preview. I was listening to all of it, but specifically to their Bengals section, and he's like, he had Trent Brown as his Bengals fit strictly for the comical nature of it. Like he just wanted to see what it looks like when you put Orlando Brown at 6'8", listed 6'8", 345, and Trent Brown listed 6'8". I don't know what he even will list at here, but 360, 370, depends on where you look. He's had weight clauses in his contract. And it's a unique thing, but it fits kind of what the Bengals are going to do. And that's something we talked to Dan Pitcher about a little bit. Jay, you got some stats for me though? We need stats. I need massive human stats.
All right, you want to go with league-wide trend first, or you want to go with Bengals massive stats first?
Bengals massive stats.
All right. The Bengals have had 2 tackles in franchise history who were 6'8" or more start at least 15 games. Orlando Brown last year, 17. The leader in the clubhouse with 30 career starts. Do you know who that is?
I don't.
Dennis Rowland.
Oh, a tall drink of water, Dennis Rowland.
Yes. I was surprised he started 30. I was like, wow. That...
Yes. I was here for some of the Dennis Rowland era. That's great.
And I'm surprised. I don't know what Anthony was listed at, but he did not show up in that list of guys that were at least 6'8". So he must have been 6'7".
Dennis Rowland, note, whenever we were on the road on Saturday nights back in the Dennis Rowland era, and we'd be out having drinks, our great friend, former Bengals public relations director, Jack Brennan, would order whenever they'd say, would you like the tall, you get those tall beers that you're the tall, medium, large, ever. He I'd like a Dennis Rowland. And they were called Dennis Rowlands. Like anytime we were out as a Bengals group, order me a round of Dennis Rowlands for the boys, right? And that's what they were known as, the talls. That's what you wanted. Those Applebee's tall Brutuses is what I think they're called. So anyway, random old school Bengals note. Shout out Jack. We're always thinking of you.
Yes. So I just looked, Munoz was listed at 6'6". So the Bengals did have 7 other tackles who were 6'7", who started at least one game in franchise history. Witt, obviously, most with 164. Joe Walter with 136. And then you go down to Bruce Reimer, 64. And then some more recent guys, Eric Winston and Fred Johnson with 8 each. Isaiah Prince with 4. And a guy named Dan Jones I've never heard of with 5. So it's rare to have those guys. To have 2 in the same season in the same starting lineup is as Robert may say, going to be a comical sight.
Yes. So when you go and you look, here's how, kind of rare that is when you go across the entire league, going back to 2000, when you look at tackles or really any offensive line position that's 6'8" and 340 plus, okay, that started all the way back to 2000, there are only 3 that have started more games than Trent Brown and Orlando Brown Jr. Mount McKinney in Minnesota, Jonathan Ogden, noted Hall of Famer, Max Starks for Pittsburgh, long-time Steeler, Trent Brown, Orlando Brown, Phil Loadholt had 89, Langston Walker had 82, Jordan Maitai had 57, Jared Gaither had 37. That's the list of anyone with double-digit starts at that size. Since 2000, the last 25 years, that's it. I mean, it's so rare to do this, and you see it right here, and here's the Bengals combining the 2 together.
The last time a team had 2 teammates start double-digit games that were 6'8" tackles or taller was the 2021 Raiders. Brandon Parker had 13, Colton Miller 17. The last time a team had 2 tackles that were 6'8" or taller start every game of a season were 2 guys you just mentioned, Bryant McKinney and Phil Loadholt for the Vikings in 2010. It's rare to have one guy like that, to have 2 on the same team just don't see it a lot.
Pop on your 2010 Vikings video. Let's go. Let's get back into it and see how it looks. I don't know if that's something that you want to do. Vikings fans might be like, no, don't do it. But I just have this vision of the Bengals scouts staring at Amarius Mims right now, though. Just like, oh, there you are. Now he's only listed at 6'7". I think they could stretch him out to get the 6'8" on him. He's about 6'7", about 340. He certainly fits if you're looking for the prototype of Bengal that they could be looking for next. On that note, Jay, I mean, I think for me and how I kind of view it and see it, a lot of people say, okay, does this take tackle at 18 off the board? Not at all. I almost think it leans further into that. You know, Trent Brown's versatility to play left and right, he would be the best swing tackle in football as far as your top reserve option. And if Orlando Brown gets hurt, you know, you could have him start. You're now not forcing a rookie offensive lineman to protect Joe Burrow week 1. That's huge, but they can compete there. You have competition for Trent Brown. You have competition for a rookie to focus on. That rookie could be someone with guard tackle flexibility. That could then, if there's an injury at guard, you could feel like you have the ability to put a top first-round pick in to fill in. The depth is necessary. To think that they're going to go through another year like they did last year where no one gets hurt is wild thoughts. It's just not the case, especially when you have big dudes. Trent Brown has a lot of injury history. He's missed a ton of games the last 4 or 5 years. I think this more, I'm not going to say cements because they don't have to, but to me, it doesn't change it one iota. That still seems resoundingly like the direction that they would go at 18.
No, because it's not about just 2024. I mean, where would you put the odds that Trent Brown is on this team in 2025? It's got to be less than 10%. And you need to go get a guy that you can ideally get in the first round and have for 5 years at the minimum. That is your right tackle of the future. It just, you even if Trent Brown didn't, and Trent Brown's averaged 9.5 starts the last 4 years. He had one season where he started 16, and a lot of them below that. Even if he didn't have that kind of injury history, I still think it's on the table, not just on the table, likely that they go tackle at 18.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's funny. We had our athletic beat writer mock draft, which the one post free agency is my favorite one that we do all year. And Jay, you know, we've done those before. It's the most revealing because anything pre-free agency, I almost don't even count.
Yeah.
It's just, there's too many things that change, trades change, value, what teams are trying to do changes, and it shakes up everything. And in the first one we did, I was stunned at what was left for me. And that was Byron Murphy was still there. And Talise Fuaga from Oregon State was there. Somebody who Daniel Jeremiah has had as his 10th overall guy and number 2 offensive lineman. Byron Murphy is the only game-wrecking 3 technique, really. Johnny Newton, I guess, potentially as well, that you see consistently in the first round in these drafts. And that's the only place those guys come from. And we know how much they can use that and need that. And that's certainly a hole. I was not expecting, because Fuaga to me is the perfect Bengal. He's massive. He's 6'6", 6'7", 330. He is powerful. He's got that Frank Pollock finishing stuff that they just love, tenacious, and guard tackle flex. That would be perfect for short and long term. And so having to choose between him and Murphy, I didn't think I would pick anyone over Murphy if he was available. And I did. I picked Fuaga because I think with him and Trent Brown, you feel so protected for Joe Burrow. And I feel like later I got a better chance at finding somebody who can be a rotational defensive tackle piece for me than I do someone who I think can be the future in protecting Burrow and lean that way. I don't know that I would do it tomorrow. Like it changes as you go, but I was stunned to have that in front of me.
How many, do you remember how many tackles total went in the first 17? You said Fuaga was still.
I'd have to pop it open right now. We haven't published. Yeah. It's still on the file, but I think he was the 4th to go off. It was Alt, Fashanu, Fatanu, So he might have been the fourth behind them. I'd have to go back and double check it though. It's up on the, if you're listening to this, it comes out Thursday.
Yeah. Was Latham still available? Because that's
No,
a guy
no, that's what it is. Latham went in front of
okay.
him as well, and so yeah, you ended up with him as an option. I think I would have taken Murphy over Latham, but not over Fuaga. And that's, again, this is before I've done another 5 weeks of study into it and interrogating. But again, point being that I'm trying to make in this, like, it just feels so right still to take an offensive tackle at 18.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
As far as what's next in free agency, how do you view the rest of free agency, Jay? Do you see another move that feels like is coming or should be on the horizon?
I mean, I don't think they're done. It's not going to make waves, but I don't think they're done. I think there's still a couple of their own guys they could get back. And then, I mean, the well is dry at defensive tackle, at run stopper. I mean,
yeah, for the most part, no one that's going to make any difference.
No, I thought, yesterday I talked about Jonathan Hankins. Maybe they went over 30 for Rankins. Would they go over 30 for Hankins? He ended up signing yesterday with Seattle. That was really beyond Tierre Tart. That was the only other run stopper that even would make sense. I mean, there's some guys, not Derek Nandi from the Chiefs, that have played that position, but they're just, I mean, I guess you got to get somebody. They are so thin there, but you wouldn't feel confident about it. Anybody that was be able to step into that reader role as a starter and run stuffer. So I think that's the biggest surprise for me in free agency overall, is that kind of felt like number one or number two priority, and they didn't get it done. It almost reminds you of tight end last year, where they didn't get it done. They settled on a super cheap option with Herb Smith late in March. So maybe that's the direction they go here, but you're not going to find one in the draft either. So it is a concern.
Yep. Again, we have talked about, because of the market not being super and the draft not being super, it's a position that lends itself to creativity, and they need, if something we're talking about what I would like to see. I think if you wanted to see, an aggressive team, I think you would be looking at what chips do you have to acquire somebody, because they're not available in free agency. In the draft, you can get somebody for sure, but you're starting a rookie. That's an unknown. There's no first round pick, okay, that you can count on, and you never know. A rookie can come in, second, third round pick. They can be great. They can be trash. Okay, we've seen it happen. You are flipping coins. I call it the Malik Jefferson, Sam Hubbard corollary. They were right next to each other, picked back to back. Okay, one got what was the pie? Didn't one get the pie pick? Was Malik the pie pick, and Sam?
That was Malik, yes, and he was gluten free.
Gluten free, yeah. One can be the core pillar. The other one can be an absolute bust. Okay. Yeah. You're in that range where you don't know for sure, and you can't count on it. So what can you get? Who can you get? What do you have to give up to get that person? Is it worth a draft pick? Is there a player that you could part with that could entice somebody? I think you've got to start looking at ways to be creative, if you're going to really fill it aggressively, or else you're going to be piecing stuff together and hoping. And maybe that's the direction they go, but I think that's where they're at right now. That's the two paths they're sitting at today, is how aggressive do they want to be, or how much do they feel confident that they can piece it together and make it work.
You know who likes the way this is played out? He's kind of a forgotten guy. I'm not saying he's going to be anything, but he's going to get a chance, is Dominique Davis, a guy that really flashed in the preseason. And if they don't bring anybody in, he's going to have every chance to make this roster as a run stuffer and make that 53.
And I'll be curious when we show up. I'm curious what the conversations are with Zach Carter, who we never talk about. Do you tell him, hey, put on another 10 pounds? Can you? Like, he did that again, right? Last year, he changed his body to try to play 3 technique. He wasn't, but I think they still like who he could be against the run. Do you tell him to, hey, keep beefing? Can you? Because, I think we've all are admitting that he's not going to be a pass rushing 3 technique. Nope. I mean, that wasn't it. So what are you doing with Zach Carter? Can you find a new something with him in a role? You got, again, creativity. You're trying to grasp at straws. You're trying to piece things together right now. And so they've got it. That's something they've got. There's time, you never know. The next Mike Daniels can show up out of nowhere,
Yeah,
right?
true.
Or a defensive tackle who's older just sits there and is going to get one more season, and you find somebody. So maybe that's it. But we don't want you guys to wait any longer for the star of today's show. And that's our conversation with Dan Pitcher as we run through the path through free agency. Gesicki, Moss. Again, if you don't subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Growler on YouTube, highly recommend it, specifically for this episode, as we go through some tape of these guys with Dan, and he is just awesome. Again, though, if you're not watching, if you're just listening, you will absolutely still get the point. About what he's talking about with all these guys too. So thanks to everybody that subscribes on YouTube. Get there if you can. Otherwise, let's get to Dan Pitcher. All right. Let's now get back to it. This is our smooth transition. If you're watching us on YouTube, you get to see behind the scenes. All right. And all right. Much thanks to Dan Pitcher for joining us. Jay, take away number one from Dan.
Just the detail that we watch a lot of football, but the detail with every technique that he goes into with these guys. And I was surprised by Zach Moss and what he said about it's not just breaking tackles, it's carrying guys, it's getting that extra 5, 6, 7 yards and carrying a guy with you once he's made contact. And what he said about, the best third down teams go first down, second down, first down. And those are runs that you almost get overlooked, but they're the ones that make a big difference in the grand scheme of things. And I could sit and listen to him talk all day. I know he's a busy man. I'm very thankful he gave us more than 30 minutes. But it's just, you learn so much listening to that guy talk.
You do. And again, I mentioned it earlier, but when we talk about analytics darling and rushing yards over efficiency percentage, that's it. It's the carrying the extra couple of yards where every carry amongst the highest rates in football, you felt like you were getting a little extra. And that's not, and Joe Mixon was right at kind of get what's blocked was the line that Brian Callahan used. And he was, his rushing yards over expected was at 0 last year. And that's middle of the pack. That's not bad. Like an average running back is hard to find, but you're getting that little bit extra, and it's not as impressive sometimes. Like Joe leaves an impression, and he wears people down more over the course of a game, and that's part of his draw. What made him so good here for so long, but it wasn't always getting a ton of those extra yards. Or whereas Zach Moss, you see him getting more of the extra yards, but it's maybe not as emphatic. That was a really interesting delineation. I loved Dan talking about the fact that he picked those 2 plays off the top, the one where he runs that route stem against the Jets and how he stemmed vertical and created that extra separation, stuff that you just don't see out of a tight end. And to do that with that big body and how tight ends typically lumber through that and how much that shines and what they can do. Loved that breakdown. And it really shows what he opens up for them to what they can be in 12 personnel, which is really 11, what they can be in 10 personnel, which is actually 11. You know what I mean? Like they can be 2 different things at once. It gets you a chance to play the combo of him and Sample more, where you feel like you can run it or pass it effectively. And there's just a lot there. Love that from Pitch. Let's again, thanks him for joining us. Let's flip it forward. You got some run passer boots, right? We got a couple run passer boots to get to. Let's RPB. We haven't RPB'd a ton since we've been back growling here. And so what you got one for me, Jay? Kick us off.
Yeah, it's a new Bengal themed run passer boot. So what number will be greater in 2024? Games started by Trent Brown, combined total touchdowns by Zach Moss and Mike Gesicki, or combined PBUs by Von Bell and Geno Stone?
This is so hard. You are diabolical. Okay. When you look at, PBUs, can we count interceptions in that?
I think
PBUs and
I think
interceptions,
you
or do
get
you
it.
feel like that's too much?
I think you
get
get a
PBU for an
PBU
interception.
for an
Okay,
interception.
so it
Yeah.
does count. All right,
Yeah.
making sure that works there. Okay, because that's I think you're going to see a combo of 5 picks from Bell and Stone. I think that's my number. Just feels like that's just kind of where it typically ends up for those two. So throwing a few more PBUs. So I'm in the 8, I'm in the 10 range for those guys on PBUs total. Touchdowns by Moss and Gesicki. I think you're going to see 5 from Moss and another. I'll say 6 from Gesicki. So it gets me an 11. Trent Brown. 11 feels right. 11 feels right. Like I'm gonna boot Trent Brown 11 because I think there's a chance he gets hurt. And that's been consistent throughout his career. I think there's a chance he doesn't win the battle or the battle overtakes him midway through the year. So I'm going to boot Trent Brown and I'm going to run with Moss Gesicki. I just think I think they're really going to feel like they're expanding their offense with those guys and it's going to pay off for them. And I think Moss will get some of the goal line work. I think if you look at his highlight tape, you see a bunch of the work that he does at the goal line. That's something that Mixon did. Can Chase Brown do that? Sure. I don't know that they'll ask Chase Brown to do that. So for that fact, I'll go Moss Gesicki. I'll run with those, and I'll put PBUs in the middle.
Yeah, I booted Trent Brown too. I put my numbers for each one, and I had numbers for the PBUs, numbers for the TDs, and for Trent Brown starts, I put question mark. And it just the history there. You have to worry about injuries. You have to worry about a pick at 18 coming in and beating him out. So that was an easy boot. I went the other way. I ran with the PBUs. Geno Stone had 9 last year. Vaughn only had 2, but if you look at Vaughn's last year with the Bengals, he had 8. So that's 17 right there. I don't think it doesn't mean they're going to get that again, but it's a decent baseline to consider. I think Bengals coaches would be thrilled to get a combined. I had 12 for the touchdowns, get 6 from each of those guys. So I'm going to run with the PBUs, pass on combined touchdowns, and boot Trent Brown starts.
The question being, does Von Bell start?
Yeah.
How much are you getting? Are you getting a full season of Von Bell? Is that Jordan Battle's job? And that again, that's why this question is diabolical, Jay.
Yes.
There's so many variables in there. It's March. Okay. There's a lot. They're into the draft. And then after that, they're going to start getting into all the scheme, as Dan was saying, so we'll see how it all plays out. That's a good one to revisit at the end of the season. Mark that down. Put that on the spreadsheet.
It is.
And I'll put a calendar reminder for January 10th on that one. Okay, I got one. This one was sent in from our good friend and children's book author, Tom Watson, great friend of the program, who sent in, all right, with the 18th pick, run, pass, or boot, Bowers, Murphy, offensive tackle who falls out of the top 6. That's what he says. I'm not sure exactly, or whoever falls out of the top 6. Offensive tackle. We'll just say that. We talked about this a little bit earlier. How do you RPB that?
Yeah, I wonder if he meant the top 6 tackles, not top 6 picks, but the top 6 tackles. Would it be a wild card offensive
top
tackle
6
there?
tackles? Someone out of the top 6 tackles.
If that's the case, then I'm going Murphy. I'll run with Murphy. I'll pass with the tackle. I'll boot Bowers. I just don't see Bowers happening. They signed Gesicki. You got Sample back. It's not a premium position for this. You don't need it to be. You would love to draft a guy in the 3rd or 4th round and have him bubble up and be a top tight end, obviously. But to spend a 1st round pick on a tight end in an offense where most of the balls are going to go to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and I don't know. I think Bowers would be a long shot. Even if he's there, I don't think he gets to 18. If he does, I still think it'll be a long shot that the Bengals would take him. So I'm going to boot him.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're talking about all 3 of these are available at 18, I'm booting Bowers. I mean, it's just I know people love it and they love the idea of it and it's fast. it feels redundant for what they've done in free agency, and it feels negligent of what they need most.
Yeah.
And so I would, again, I just talked about the Murphy Fuaga. I think it depends on who that guy is that's there. I mean, I don't think anybody thinks Alt is falling out of the top 10, but if amongst those, I think Fuaga would be the one that I would take over Murphy, but I don't think anybody else. Man.
But he's in the top 6 tackles. So if we're going,
if he's
like the
one,
number 7 tackle versus Murphy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think of any tackle outside of Alt and Fuaga. I don't think that I am taking them over Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's my big board, right? I think it's Alt, Fuaga, Murphy for me, and then all the rest of the tackles are behind them and sprinkle in some corners, and that's my list. And so that, I guess, for that fact, I would run with Murphy here, just for the fact that it probably isn't Fuaga. But again, we got 5 weeks, and we will do many episodes breaking this down. We're going to start all our draft coverage here for you, kicking off full steam next week. I'm on vacation for a little bit of next week, so you'll get a special episode I'm recording with Mike Renner. I should knock on wood here on that. Hopefully everything goes smoothly with the recordings. Let's record tomorrow. That'll come out on Monday in the place of Balds Don't Lie. And then Jay and I will be pushed back 1 week to Thursday. So while you're considering and you're sitting drinking on your way to opening day, pop in your AirPods and you can listen to us breaking down the owners' meetings where we'll be reacting to whatever is said there by Katie Blackburn in the time that she meets the media, assuming that she does. Assuming that anything could happen between now and then, Jay, who knows? So many things are up in the air, but kind of sneaking away for a little bit of vacation now that we've kind of got through free agency and got the ball rolling. But we'll be back. You'll still have your episodes coming your way, and Who Day Light still coming your way Fridays. All that's staying the same. Keep sending in your questions there. You guys have been great in shooting all your questions over for us to it was very free agency heavy last week, and we had a lot to cover. A lot was going on. We'll be doing more of that. So make sure you send those. You can email those to us at thegrowlerpodcast@gmail.com. And we'll get them. Mark will ambush me with those then. Let's go. We've got some Growler bet to recap, Jay. Nobody won the DJ Reader signing date.
Yeah.
Which we both had that it would go later. I had right after the draft. You had July
16th.
Detroit being confident in his injury situation was the difference here, because there weren't a lot of other teams available. I think if they hadn't, it would have probably drug on a lot longer. But Detroit said we're comfortable with it. And so they ended up being the team that went in on it. So no winners on DJ Reader. But we did have our competition. Still going. It was the free agent draft we did a few weeks ago. I got out to the quick 3-0 lead when I hit on Moss, and I hit on who was my
Geno Stone, your wild card. So you got 2 points for him.
Got 2 points for him. So it was up 3-0. Then you struck back this week with Trent Brown, which you had 2 points on him for the offensive tackle pick. Kudos to you on that. There are still some outstanding targets. We said it was only going to go for 2 weeks, but instead there's still some outstanding targets. So we're going to extend it.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, today would have been.
This is my gift to you. This is my gift to you. I could just say, no, these were the rules. It ended today. It's over. I win. But here's me being nice, saying, no, let's wait till all the people that we picked are signed and see where it stands. Don't say I've never given you anything.
Yeah, this is a gift because your 2 outstanding guys they feel like long shots. They both had visits here and left without a deal, and that being Tierre Tart and Mekhi Becton. Becton's definitely off the table now after they signed Trent Brown yesterday. My 2 guys still outstanding are both running backs, J.K. Dobbins and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So if either one of them signs, we didn't come up with a tiebreaker. It would be 3-3. So I don't know how we would break that tie, because I think that's how it's either you're going to win 3-2 or it's going to end 3-3, because the Bengals aren't going to sign Dobbins and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So we'll see. When we going to extend this to the draft?
I think we just extend it until everyone has signed with a team or someone retires.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, don't go crossing Becton off. What if the draft goes totally sideways and they don't get a tackle?
Yeah.
It turns into tight end last year.
Mhm.
And they're like, we need a swing. And no one wanted Mekhi Becton. Okay, I'm just saying, don't just cross it all the way off, okay? I mean, it's mostly crossed off. I mean, you can see that potentially, but don't give up just yet. I'm just saying, don't go crossing that off just yet. Okay?
What percentage chance that Mekhi Becton is still unsigned by the draft?
I don't know. You show me his suitors today.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. I think he was pretending he had other visits to take. He didn't take them. So you never know. I'm just saying, don't cross it all the way off. That's all I'm saying.
All right.
All right. Let's Arby's and get out of here, Jay.
Yeah.
What do we both were at the Ted Karras event on Sunday, which was a highly entertaining event. Do you have any Arby's from there?
Yeah, I have a couple. I loved, as soon as I showed up, I rolled up at the same exact time that Doug Rosfeld did with his kids. And you and I walked out together with Doug Rosfeld and his kids. He was there the same amount of time. And I asked him, I was looking for somebody that was getting their very first tattoo. And Doug did get a Cincy hat or a Cincy Hats logo tattoo, but it was not his first. And thank you to Doug for letting me take a picture of him getting the tattoo. The other one was just, we were there for a while before they made Ted available. The line to get his autograph was insane. And when we finally talked to Ted, obviously the Joe Burrow donation of $25,000 and the tattoo was the big part of it. But he was so excited about, and this seems typical for an offensive lineman, to be excited about food. But one of the contests they had at this event was a Greenway, because it was St. Patrick's Day, a Greenway eating contest. And I don't know who the guy was, but Ted was just amazed and excited that someone polished off an entire 3-way in 26 seconds.
First of all, frightened for that person and what
Yes.
happens next. Okay. And it has to be like the hot dog eating contest where you have to have, there can be no,
Nothing left.
what do they call it? There's a term that they use for it, so they don't have to say the disgusting terms. But so it doesn't come back up.
Oh, yeah.
I think do we have confirmation of that? Because that is a scary number to post in the Greenway eating contest. That makes me very concerned. I thought the story that we got from Ted from Trent Brown yesterday about Ted Karras, because they played together in New England. And, Ted had played a major role in Trent Brown coming here and in the fact that I think he spoke highly of Trent Brown to the team. And I think he spoke highly of the team to Trent Brown and ended up being kind of that intermediary that helped everybody feel more comfortable about this matchup. And then Trent Brown talking about how, you come in and it's March 19th and you're on your visit and there's Ted in the tub, in the hot tub, getting ready to get a lift in and work out. And he said, it just kind of made me feel like, man, this guy, they're in it. He's in it, man. Like, he loves this piece. He's not all talk about this place being family and an organization that you love and all that. There he is. He's here and he's getting his workout in, months before anybody even has to be back. And I got a great meme that someone sent me of like Scarface of Pacino in the tub. I work for this, man. Like that scene, which I just found hysterical, of the idea of put Ted's face on that, okay, for me, please. And I just love the idea of Ted greeting every free agent from the tub. It's just something that I think we all need. That should be their free agent pitch.
The best part of that story was the stray the Patriots caught at the end of that quote, because earlier Trent had talked about how, wanted to be at a place where you want to go to work every day. And then Ben Baby followed up about what were those last few years in New England like. He's like, I don't want to talk about the past. I'm here to talk about the future. And then when he's talking about the Ted and the hot tub thing, he just said that it was encouraging to see, because at our former place, guys were looking to get out of there and get a break any chance they got. And here's Ted in the tub when he doesn't have to be, when it's all voluntary. And that was, I was amused by that he took a little shot at the Patriots, even though he avoided doing it earlier. He just couldn't help himself after he got talking about Ted.
Patriots fans were not fans of him. He took a
Mhm.
lot of. There's a great story. I think you retweeted it too, but on Nesson about him kind of clapping back about some of the criticism he got. People thinking he was unmotivated and didn't care. And I think there's a change of scenery element to keeping Trent Brown motivated. Like I mentioned, he's had weight clauses in his contract in the past. That's been a thing. But being in a place where you want to be in the building every day. You want to work. You have Ted Karras pushing you. I think is part of why I think the Bengals believe this can work. You talked about catching strays. How about Sheldon Rankins the other day? When he was just talking about in the past, I think this was in the audio that I put on the podcast, but when he's like, look, go all the way back to 2018. It was with the Jets and beat Clint Bowling. I was like, did Clint Bowling just catch a stray? Clint Bowling, feeding his baby and playing in it with his kids and back in Atlanta, getting ready to have a tea time in an hour. Did I just get a shot from Sheldon Rankins back at the Bengals facility? What is happening right now? So shout out to another friend of the program, Clint Bowling, who just caught a rando stray from Sheldon Rankins the other day. But yeah, lots of strays we're landing this week.
Rankins. Zach caught one, and Alex Kappa caught one. It was funny how you could tell he was trying to couch his words, but he's like, I'm just going to tell it like it is. And you guys will get used to it. You'll get used to it. That's who I am.
Yes. Speaking freely. Well, that might have to be a segment for us. Sheldon Rankins speaks freely this week. This week in free speech from Sheldon Rankins. So looking forward to all of that. He's going to be a great one for all of us. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Who Dey Light will be back here on Friday. Send your questions in to thegollerpodcast@gmail.com to take us on whatever route you'd like that show to go. So we'll talk to you then. And have a good one, everybody.